The film opens in a grim detention facility where a shackled prisoner awaits his fate. Soldiers arrive and drag him out onto the balcony, where the crowd below is screaming and cursing him, calling him a murderer and a monster. The jailer demands that a guard announce the prisoner's punishment. Before the angry mob, the guard declares that the court has sentenced the man to hanging in 2 days. However, before his execution, his hands and feet will be broken. The people erupt in excitement at this news. But who is this killer? The story rewinds several years to reveal his past. We are transported to the grimy, foul-smelling Paris fish market, the dirtiest place in the city. The people here make their living selling fish and meat. Among them is a fishmonger woman, known for having given birth to 4 stillborn children before. When she gives birth to another baby, assuming it is dead, she callously tosses it into the filthy stream along with the rotten fish. However, this time, the child is alive, and his cries cut through the stench. The onlookers, disgusted by the woman's cruelty, scold her. This newborn is none other than the prisoner who would later face a brutal punishment. His name is Jean. He possesses 2 remarkable traits, a perfect sense of smell, and an eerie curse. Anyone who abandons him somehow meets death. His mother, after discarding him, is executed soon after. Jean is sent to an orphanage run by Madame Gueulaut, who fosters children solely for the money. The other orphans feel threatened by Jean's presence and try to kill him, but Madame Gueulaut intervenes and beats the children. Jean struggles in the orphanage, unable to speak for the first 5 years of his life. Despite his silence, his extraordinary sense of smell allows him to understand the world around him. At 13, due to overcrowding, Gueulaut sells Jean to a tanner who collects animal skins. The day Jean leaves, thieves murder Gueulaut for her money. Jean is put to hard labor by the tanner, but this marks his first encounter with the wider world. During a trip to the city, Jean is overwhelmed by the variety of scents. He stumbles upon a perfume shop and is immediately entranced by the intoxicating aromas. Nearby, he catches the scent of a young fruit seller, her fragrance captivating him. She offers him fruit, but when he grabs her hand, she pulls away in fear. Though she tries to flee, Jean follows her using his impeccable sense of smell. Cornering her, he silences her screams to avoid drawing attention. When the coast is clear, Jean accidentally smothers her to death. To his dismay, her beautiful scent gradually fades, leaving him bewildered. Where does the scent of life go? The story then shifts to another important character, a once great perfumer named Boldini, whose success has waned with the arrival of new competitors. That evening, Jean delivers goat skins to Boldini's shop, but he's more interested in the perfumes. Smelling Boldini's body, Jean boldly claims he can create a perfume just as good, if not better. Amused, Boldini scoffs at the idea but gives Jean a chance. Using his extraordinary abilities, Jean creates a perfume that astounds Boldini with its seductive scent. Recognizing Jean's gift, Boldini is left in awe. He begins to long for the lost love the perfume seems to evoke, realizing that Jean's talent is extraordinary and rare. The story begins to explore how Jean's abilities will lead him to both great heights and dark obsessions in the pursuit of capturing the essence of beauty through scent. Boldini purchases Jean from Grimmel. That very night, Grimmel, heavily intoxicated, meets his end by falling into a stream. Meanwhile, Jean becomes the driving force behind Boldini's perfumes, propelling them to fame across Paris. Boldini teaches Jean the art of perfumery, explaining the concept of 3 sets, each containing 4 distinct scents, which make up every perfume. This means a total of 12 identifiable scents, but Boldini adds that if someone were to create a 13th scent, it would be unmatched by any human being. Jean becomes emotional, believing he has the potential to create this legendary 13th perfume. He pleads with Boldini to teach him the process, vowing to perfect it and share it with the world. Boldini instructs him on how to distill 10,000 flowers into a single bottle, using a machine he had designed and learned about before arriving in Paris. However, one day, Boldini finds Jean weeping. When asked why, Jean accuses him of lying, stating that the method Boldini taught him is outdated and ineffective. He claims it is impossible to capture the essence of iron or glass in a bottle. After this incident, Jean falls unconscious, leaving Boldini worried about the potential loss of his newfound fame. Jean, upon recovering, demands that Boldini teach him new extraction methods. Boldini shares another technique, extracting perfume from the fat of animal skins. He instructs Jean to travel to Grasse and gives him 1,000 formulas in return. Jean sets off for Grasse to learn this method, while Boldini's house collapses into ruins shortly after Jean's departure, killing Boldini. On his way to Grasse, Jean experiences the sensation of freedom for the first time in his life. He is no longer a slave and can make his own decisions. He must choose between two paths, one leads through a village and the other through the mountains. Jean chooses the mountain path, where he discovers a cave and stays there for several days. He dreams of the fruit seller girl he once killed. Upon awakening, confused, Jean smells his own body but realizes he has no personal scent. As he showers in the rain, this realization becomes even clearer: he is without a natural smell. The next morning, as Jean continues toward Grasse, he detects a scent similar to the fruit seller's perfume. He follows it and sees a beautiful girl stepping out of a carriage. Enchanted, he pursues her and follows her to Grasse. The girl is Laura, the daughter of Riquiz, the wealthiest man in the world, and considered the most beautiful woman in Grasse. Jean begins working for a woman whose husband closely watches her. During this time, he learns 2 techniques for extracting perfume from animal fat. Eager to test his knowledge, Jean applies the first method to his female co-worker, boiling her dead body with animal fat. However, he fails to capture her scent. Undeterred, Jean tries the second method, targeting a streetwalker. After killing her, he shaves her head and coats her body in animal fat. He wraps her in a cloth, successfully extracting her scent through the fabric. Jean tests the resulting perfume on the streetwalker's pet dog, confirming its effectiveness. Jean then begins crafting a set of 13 bottles, as taught by Baldini. Each bottle requires the murder of a person. At Laura's birthday party, where the children play hide and seek, Jean sneaks in and attempts to attack Laura. However, she survives, but 2 other girls at the party go missing. Their bodies are later found floating in the river under the city bridge. Jean has now created the first 2 bottles of his set by killing these 2 girls. A wave of murders sweeps through the city, with young girls falling victim. Terrified, the citizens begin locking their doors to protect their daughters. Meanwhile, Jean completes 12 bottles of perfume and mixes them all into one large bottle, inching closer to his ultimate goal. Jean only needs 1 more bottle to complete the perfect perfume, the murder of Laura. Riquiz, realizing that all the victims were young and untouched, deduces that the murderer has a specific motive for killing. In desperation, the people of Grasse turn to the church for help, and the priest agrees to assist. Soon after, a man claims that the murderer has been caught, filling the townspeople with joy. However, Riquiz remains unconvinced. Concerned for his daughter, he decides to flee Grasse with Laura the following day. Using his exceptional sense of smell, Jean tracks Laura's departure from the city, following her scent. Meanwhile, a streetwalker's dog sniffs out the clothing and hair of its murdered owner in Jean's room, leading Drute, Jean's co-worker, to inform the authorities. The police investigation uncovers the belongings of other victims, further incriminating Jean. Riquiz and Laura spend the night in a hotel, where Riquiz keeps the key to Laura's room with him. However, Jean manages to steal the key, entering Laura's room undetected. The next morning, Riquiz is devastated to discover his daughter's lifeless body. With Laura's death, Jean completes the 13th bottle and finalizes his ultimate perfume. He is promptly arrested by the police. The story returns to where it began. Jean is awaiting his punishment. 2 days later, crowds gather to witness his execution. As he is brought out of the prison, Jean discreetly opens the bottle containing his powerful perfume. The crowd, initially excited to see his end, is overtaken by the scent. As Jean approaches the executioner, the man, instead of carrying out the sentence, kneels before Jean, weeping and proclaiming him innocent. Jean waves a perfumed handkerchief in the air, and the scent captivates the entire crowd. Everyone starts to see him as an angel, feeling as though they are in heaven. Overcome by the perfume's effects, the crowd begins to make love indiscriminately, regardless of age, race, or social status. Watching this scene unfold, Jean finally understands the meaning of true love. He remembers the fruit seller girl and believes that if he had loved her, he could have won her heart. Saddened by this realization, Jean begins to weep. At this moment, Riquiz appears, armed with a sword and intent on killing Jean. However, even Riquiz cannot resist the perfume's magic. He kneels before Jean, asking for forgiveness. Jean, realizing the enormity of his actions, decides to leave the city. As Jean departs, the effects of the perfume gradually wear off, and the citizens return to their senses. Jean heads back to his birthplace, the fish market where his life began. Taking the perfume bottle from his pocket, he pours it over himself. Drawn by the scent, a crowd gathers around Jean, their eyes fixed on him. Overcome by the allure of the perfume, they tear him apart, effectively ending his life. In this way, Jean's story comes to a tragic and fitting end,